Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We're here for our review show, and once again, Kernan has joined us to look back at Armagh's game at the weekend. And it was disappointing straight away at the final whistle, Aaron. Probably on reflection, it was a great performance from Armagh for 50, 55, 60 minutes, and sort of maybe fell away in the last 10 minutes to let Donegal back in it for a draw. But positive vibes coming out of the county, I think, from the game. We not only lived with a Division 1 side, a top Division 1 side, but really showed our quality throughout the game. And I know we were missing men, they were missing men, but it was a good performance all around. And as I say, disappointing in the immediate after the final whistle, but there is positives to come from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a sign of where this team has come over this past month, that we're disappointed with a draw. And we were disappointed losing last week. Realistically speaking, like, there's a first time Division 1 in 10 years. And before the league started, you'd say Donegal and Tyrone are out their own. They're the two favourites for Ulster. But I think we've definitely shown over this past month that we're well capable of competing with any side within Ulster. And there is the old one thrown around that maybe Monaghan are missing players, Tyrone, Donegal, Armagh are missing players. Armagh didn't have a full team. We spoke last Monday where I said it couldn't be an excuse. The injuries couldn't be an excuse. And I think the boys' performance was very reflective of that. The likes of Ross Finn coming in, to play his first game. You had Ross McQuillan making his first start. You have Kernan Kelly coming off the bench, who had only got a few minutes in the Tyrone game last week and making an impact. So to me, they're massive positives, because it was very easy after the Tyrone game, the penalty miss, the injuries, to feel sorry for ourselves all week and have all our excuses ready and lined up why we were in a relegation playoff. But that didn't come into the thinking. And that's massive. That being said, with 10 minutes to go and being 4 points up and not seeing it out again, where we probably were in ascendancy, quite similar to the Tyrone game, and we faded out of it again. It was very disappointing, because up until that, it had been so good. The work rate, the endeavour, and some of the football was absolutely top class. And I've seen tweaks every week now where you can see what they're obviously trying to work on, or they're trying to expand the game plan, and you literally from week to week can see the difference. Like, I think obviously the most obvious one was, particularly in the first half, was the long diagonal direct ball into the full forward line. And that was something that I had highlighted on Air Sports that I didn't think we were doing enough of from the Tyrone game. But they very much went for it in the first half. Not so much the second half, and again, I think we can work on, because for me, if you put Ryan O'Neill in full forward, no one's going to deliver that ball in. If he goes in full forward, I don't know why, but no one will kick him the ball, and that needs to work on. There's no point in having a man of that quality in there if we don't give him the ball. But some of the deliveries he put in the first half in the middle of the field, only 500 people there, 400, whatever it was, but people were on the edge of their seat. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure we even got a score off any of them. But that's night one of it. I think the more we work at that, and the more men we get round the target man inside, again, I think it's another huge positive, and something that every team would find very hard to contend with.
And the way Armagh were playing on, they did get men back behind the ball. They did get 12 and 13, 14 men behind the ball at times, and we have spoke about that in the last couple of weeks. But breaking out, instead of running the ball, they did find that kick pass and then the diagonal inside. And I think there was one of Soupy's scores in the first half came from one of them diagonal balls from Ryan. So there is positive signs there. That's every team sets up sort of defensively now that there's going to be 12 or 13 men back, but it's getting the ball forward as quickly as possible and utilising Armagh's attacking quality.
Yeah, so what I would have seen, obviously watching the Monaghan game on TG Cahar and being at the Tyrone game, was I felt we definitely had 14 men going back, and we always just seemed to have one man who he didn't even stay in the full forward line. He could have been in the 45. But the other day, I know it was much more noticeable that we tried as much as possible, and very often had three men up the field, which was a target man on the inside, and you had a couple of men who were options in the half forward line. And that will start to work, and that will get even better, because those men will hold their line. if they know the defenders are going to kick the ball. The defenders will kick the ball if they know that they have options in front of them on the opposition's 45, So in the space of a week against arguably better opposition in Donegal, Armagh were excellent at it, and particularly the first half. Like it was just brilliant to watch, because for me, and it probably was a bit of frustration me looking this past few weeks, is I just felt we were underselling ourselves a wee bit, in terms of the quality of players that we have. But I get that we were just back to Division 1 and we hadn't played football in so long, and these things just don't happen overnight. But I think the improvements in this past 3 weeks, and particularly in what you have mentioned, has been great to see. And I see no reason why it can't just continue to get better over the next, whatever it is, 5 weeks or so as we lead into Championship.
I suppose Armagh's best period was probably that first 20-25 minutes. They raced into the 6-1 lead. Soupy was unmarkable inside. He scored 3. He set up James Morgan's. He won a free for Rory's point. He was unmarkable inside, and that's probably when they played the best football. They only held Donegal to a point in that period while scoring 6 themselves. So it was an unbelievable start for them, particularly when you're thinking of what happened last year against Donegal after the water break.
It was massive, absolutely massive. But just to touch on it, because I think it would be very unfair if we didn't. Soupy's performance the other night as our county captain was absolutely outstanding. He didn't need to be told. He would have been extremely disappointed with himself the week before, scrapped the penalty, but just in his own performance and giving away balls, getting blocked down, that's not Soupy Campbell. I've marked him and I've spoken about him before, and I wouldn't exaggerate whenever I said he is very similar in how he plays to what I experienced in Diarmuid Connolly, because he's so powerful, he's so direct, and he's so comfortable off either foot that he's a nightmare to mark. And I think if you just think to his 4th point, which is the one in the second half, where he just went direct at his opponent, heading up towards the Dalton goals. He cut inside as if he was going to go on his left foot. The defender turned in and he just took one step out onto his right and hooked it over the bar. And it's so hard to mark that, because you literally haven't a clue where he's going to go, but he's going that hard and that direct at you that you're under pressure, your brain's scrambling. So for him, I was absolutely delighted, but I think he set the tone as captain, and actions very much speak louder than words. I've no doubt he was getting heat. I heard the conversations where, maybe our county captain's going to have to be dropped. He's not playing well. That conversation has not been had this week, that's for certain. Soupy's going well, Armagh are going well, and that's obviously one of the main reasons why Geezer picked him as captain. And he wasn't on his own, to be fair. Like it was a massive team performance, but I'd just like to obviously personally comment on him, because whenever you're the captain, there is that bit more pressure, and that there comes with him. And obviously the disappointment from the week before, he did exactly what the top players do, and he went out and let his football do the talking.
I suppose I'll just touch on the captaincy there. I remember listening to Wooly one time in the GAR, and they were talking about David Clifford being captain of Kerry, and I think Clifford said something like his only role is he's the admin of the WhatsApp group or something. There's that many leaders and different sort of captains within the team. You've obviously captained Cross McGlen. What's it like? Is it more pressure for you, or is it, you take the responsibility, and the likes of Soupy maybe not playing last week? Would he have took that bad because he's the captain, or was he took it bad because he didn't play well and he wanted to perform this week?
I would say, he would have took it bad just personally, but throw in the fact that he's captain personally, again, you take that on board. Like, that's a responsibility that you have that just adds extra significance for you. So it doesn't help. But that's what characters do. That's what leaders do. To me, there is more to it, because your liaison between your management team and your players, there is work on that there. As a leader, you're trying to on the field make sure the players are sticking to what the game plan and that there. And of course, there's leadership groups, and you'll have maybe someone in charge of your defence and that there. But ultimately, you're being selected as captain for a reason, and it's because your manager sees that you have the leadership qualities to help the teammates around you and help execute getting his message across. So from that perspective, I would say that, yeah, like it does take on a wee bit more significance. It's not massive. It's probably not maybe what it used to be, because the preparation and everything is so big. But in terms of what Sippy would have felt personally, he would have been disappointed in himself and his own performance. But the fact that you're captain, it just adds that wee bit more significance. But like I said, has been well and truly put to bed. There was, maybe the captaincy is affecting him. It doesn't seem like he's the same player he used to be. So, like I say, for me, our conversation's done and dusted.
And Aaron, like, there's so many leaders in that Armagh team, and with Jim McCurry on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about Aidan Falker and about his leadership role, and he named a few guys, and one of the ones he named was Oisín O'Neill, how he was one of the younger leaders driving the thing on, and his point just before half time was like unbelievable. Like the distance, he was 55-60 yards from goal in a standing position. It wasn't like he even come running onto the ball, and he actually jumped up in the air. He had to hit it that hard to go over the bar. But have you seen him do that? Like, we know he has that in his locker, that he can kick from range, but that is unbelievable.
I've seen him doing it every night of training, between himself and Ryan. They're not easy on Gaelic footballs. They like to kick the leather clean off them, but probably similar to the likes of your Oisin McConville or your David Cliffords or your Dean Rocks. They're just super strikers of the ball. They wouldn't even need to be. They're big men anyway, but it's not a gym manufactured power or strength. It's just from years and years of practice that they just have the ability to strike a ball perfectly. And he was standing still. I think he takes 2 steps, but he doesn't run onto it. He doesn't have any momentum, but it's just the quality of the strike, having the head down, and following through the ball. Himself and Ryan, they're unbelievable at it. Oisín's form, he never really got going against Derry and Donegal last year, but in the National League, and in the club championship for us, like he was exceptional. And now at Division 1 level, he's very much carried that form on, and for himself personally, and obviously for the county, that there's going to be a huge positive, because he was in America for 1 year. He carried an ankle up and an ankle injury, had an operation that there. So he's really only this past sort of 18 months really starting to come into himself. So from a county perspective, that's massive. And again, it's more his what he's doing on the field, demanding the ball, getting himself in the right position, taking responsibility and shooting. That's really where he's standing up and delivering. And I would have thought that the self-belief that him, along with the rest of the boys within the group, will have gained over this past few weeks. And while it's been tough that the games have been coming so quick and the injuries have been picked up, from a player's perspective, it's brilliant, because if you make a mistake, you've only 6-7 days, you turn around, you're not going to make the same mistake again, and you get momentum from it. And I think, again, that has been proven that this Armagh team is starting to build a bit of momentum.
And I was in the media room on Saturday night, and I know you were across in the far stand with our sport. We're missing Paddy here, to give us the fans' perspective. But like, what was the fans like? Could you hear much of them? I know the biggest cheer of all was that after that point, because it was straight before half time. It had put Armagh 4 points up going into the break, and it was such a monster score. Like, the fans, it was a great addition to have the fans back, obviously, for the game. But could you hear much of the reaction after that point?
Oh, you could, but I actually think it was bettered by the one he got then in the second half, which I think again put us 4 points up. From out on the stand side, kicking up into the Dalton goals, and the crowd really got behind at that stage. And I suppose we've just become immune, or we've become used to just silence in grounds and eeriness. So from that perspective, like, it was brilliant. Again, like, it was only 400 or 500 people, whatever it was, but it was brilliant. And it's, I suppose the whole cliche is, how you block out the crowd and you're stuck in the moment and it's next ball. But realistically speaking, you do get a lift, you do hear the crowd, and so that's what it's all about. Like, that's, you're playing for enjoyment, you're playing to entertain, you're playing to represent your county and your supporters. So to hear that buzz and to hear them getting behind you is that's what it's all about. Like there's no point in saying otherwise. So that was good, and I suppose it tapered off into the disappointment. With that sort of finished us. We sort of fell a wee bit flat after it, but it was great. And even Mark O'Shea was commenting on how brilliant it was just to see supporters again. But like you say, at a few vital stages, whenever we kicked very good scores, they really got behind the team, which is key.
And you did say that there was disappointing bits, and we'll have to cover them as well, Aaron, obviously. I suppose it started with the goal. And we've talked about in the last couple of weeks, Armagh's defensive question marks. And they were superb on Saturday night for long periods, but the goal was just so disappointing to see. And as I said to you off air, I didn't actually realise that Langan had picked the ball up in the middle of the field and ran the whole way through the defence, around past 3 Armagh players and roofed it into the net. Like, you can't concede goals like that, and you can't concede somebody rolling down the centre of your defence and not being stopped and getting through and scoring a goal.
You can't. And to be honest, I was on the shed side. But at time he hit the 50, I just said to Mark O'Shea, he is flying. And Langan doesn't look like he just looks like he's tipping along, but he was at full steam. But the problem was we had 2 men cutting across on him. Like, it's not as if he ran through and there was nobody there. So like, there's no point in, you can't gloss over it. It's just poor defending. It's not been physical enough. They didn't need to dispossess him. They didn't need to put him on his backside. They just needed to slow him up. They needed to break his momentum, and the second man in could have robbed him, could have put more pressure to turn him back out. But there was a wee bit of indecision. I can't remember who the 2 boys was coming off. There's a bit of indecision, but I didn't know, am I going to go across to him? And then I don't know whether they didn't know whether they were going to hit him, whether they were going to tackle, whether they didn't want to give a black card. But like I said, just whatever way you look at it, it's not good. He got through for a goal that he should not. Now, super run by him, top class finish. But I know if Kieran McGeeney or Kieran McGeever was coming across and centre half back, he wouldn't have got through. He would have been stopped in his tracks, and it didn't need a black card or anything like that there, but he just needed to be stopped. You can't allow someone of that quality to build up momentum, and it gave Donegal a lifeline. We're literally 2 minutes before that. I'd said to Mark, there's only one winner here. I could not see us being beat. We were in control in every single position, and it just gave them a glimmer of hope that they didn't even think themselves they had in them. So it was another big momentum swinger. Like I said, we did get a few scores after it, but it just brought them that bit closer. Where at that stage we were 6 or 7 points better team than them, and it just narrowed the gap more than we would have liked, and it made a game of it then for the last 15 minutes.
And Aaron, in that situation, I know like last case scenario is obviously to drag him down and to get a black card, but looking back on reflection, was that an option? Should that have been done? I know it's last chance saloon sort of thing. You don't want to be doing it, but what do you think? If you're tracking that man, does it cross your mind to drag him down, stop the goal, concede the free, and then maybe try to lock down for 10 minutes until you get your 15th man back on?
I think that's what's most disappointing about it, is it didn't need the black card. Yes, you could have done it, but you would have put yourself under a lot of pressure. We had men in the position to get across and break his momentum, check his run and slow him up until more help had come, and tried to turn him back. So that's, for me, what is most disappointing. Absolutely, you can pull a man down anywhere and give away a black card. Looking back now, should we have done it? You can say, yeah. Who's to say then, with the extra man and the bit of belief it give them, that they mightn't have overrun us completely? You could have ended up camped in your half for even longer. So no, I would just say the players themselves, like they don't need to be told. Like, they're inter-county footballers. They expect themselves to execute that tackle, to stop that man. They don't need Geezer or Kieran McKeever or any of us to tell them otherwise. They'll be no more disappointed than our defence. And I think that's that's what will annoy them the most. There's no doubt about it. Like, because up until that, their ferocity and the tackle, their hunger to get and help a teammate couldn't be questioned whatsoever. That was just one time where they got a good run on us. Someone got a good run on us, and they made us pay.
And then on the flip side, we got a goal of our own. And I suppose we talked after the Tyrone game that about Campbell's missed penalty, that would have put us 4 points up, and you would hope to see the game out. Well, we did get the goal this weekend to put us 4 points up, and you were hoping to see the game out, and it just didn't pan out that way. But we'll concentrate on the goal first. Again, Campbell was involved. I think Turbo got the last ball across. Tiernan Kelly for his first, I think he'd scored a point before that, but it was his first goal in maybe his second or third appearance for Armagh. He took it very well with, I think there was obviously Podden, the goalkeeper, and a couple of other defenders in front of him. Maybe Ryan McHugh was in front of him as well. He kept cool under pressure and slaughtered it home, and it was great to see for such a young man. If it was the likes of Campbell or the O'Neill saying that, you would expect them to do that, but for Kelly to come in high pressured situation to get that goal, it was great to see.
Yeah, I think I suppose your name checking there, like we have definitely a Lurgan Brigade. So North Armagh is very much live and kicking within county football at the minute. And I suppose we could put a lot of that down to Super getting captaincy, but his run, he come in sort of from the centre, looped out in the wing, but same thing, like he was going flat out directly towards the goals. And I suppose Donegal players maybe might question, who was on him or why wasn't he stopped, that he was allowed to build up so much pace and to take men out of the game. But good ball into Turbo, straight into his chest. He wasn't going on his ankles or above his head for it. And then a slick pass into Tiernan Kelly. And to be fair to Tiernan, like it all happened so quick. From how many times you see someone swivel, just put their shoe through it, but it's at a perfect height and the keeper parries it out. But he kept it on the ground, which is what everyone says, give a goalkeeper no chance. And it was a fantastic finish, huge confidence boost again for someone who's really just starting out on a county journey. He'd say he had kicked the point before that there. So in terms of being sent on by your manager and asked to contribute, I think he could definitely be happy with his 15, 20 minutes work. But yeah, all in all, it showcased another string, I suppose, to our bow in terms of the ability to run at teams, and the unselfishness again, or the awareness to give the ball to a man in the best position. Similarly, maybe to Oisín slick hands to Rian the week before, to Charlie Og for a palm in. That was quite similar with Soupy, Turbo and Tiernan Kelly.
And Armagh's reaction, obviously, to conceding that goal was brilliant. They went ahead again, that put them 4 up. And Donegal never took the lead throughout the game. Armagh were in the lead from the 5th minute to the 72nd minute. So I suppose Armagh's reaction was good, but the last 20 minutes, just maybe it was the fitness levels as well. It was tough weather to be playing in the heavy sunshine, and Armagh were outscored then 5-1 for the last 20 minutes or so. And our kickouts we were hemmed in on our kickouts. We couldn't win a kickout, and I suppose it's easy to say, yeah, Blaine couldn't get the ball out, but it's not always as easy as that to blame the goalkeeper. Obviously, there was issues out the field as well, Aaron, that we just couldn't win the ball basically, and every time Donegal got the ball, they were getting a score off it. And once they got level, they knew they didn't need to win the game. They're happy to slow the clock down until to keep the ball in.
Yeah, absolutely, fully agree with what you were saying. Blaine Hughes is a good striker of the ball. He can kick off right and left foot. He can ping them out to a man in space. He can go long if he wants to. For me, we definitely got penned in. We struggled so much to win our own ball, but I wouldn't put all the blame at Blaine's door, because there was one went over the sideline in front of the stand, but it was a big issue in terms of we couldn't win our own ball. And the same thing happened to us against Donegal in the semi-final, the Ulster semi-final last year, where they got 3 marks in a row and they pushed everybody right up the field in us. But for me, it cost us the other night at that stage, because we were struggling so badly and we couldn't get out of the defence. But it has to be used as a positive and a learning now for us, because it did happen to us against them last year. It's happened to us again. We're now up with the big boys. We want to stay there. So we just simply have to improve in this sector. And I'm fairly certain that we have a go-to call for a kick out whenever we really need one. So did it happen the other night? To me, it didn't look like it did. But it's something that can be sorted, because we have a goalkeeper who can pinpoint the ball. We have men around the middle of the field who can fetch. But for me, what it just looked like the other night was we had boys running. We might have 3 or 4 men around the middle of the field, but they're all running by themselves. They're all were running to look for the fetch. And Blaine was scanning to try and see who he was going to go to, who was breaking into space. But if a team is getting a run on us and we're getting penned in, we need a go-to kick out where everybody is crashing the ball. If we don't win it cleanly, they're not getting through. It's as simple as that. We're making sure that it's slowed and we're set up, that they're not still countering on us. And that's a huge learning that I think we can take, because it would have changed the game tonight. All we needed was one ball to get up the field, to draw a free, to get a point, just to kill their momentum completely and give our defence a bit of a breather. Because the longer that went on, the deeper and deeper and deeper we started to get. It got to the stage where we didn't have anyone inside their half of the field because everybody was running back, trying to chase men, just trying to make sure we stayed ahead. So it might seem simple, but it can be tough to correct, and the pressure's really on at that stage. And even with nobody at the game, like Donegal got extremely vocal at that stage. They had all pushed up. Patton was out on air 65, and they were putting pressure and making their own noise. But that's just part and parcel of county football. We have to be able to deal with it. We have to be able to adapt, and we just have to be able to get our hands on a ball whenever we badly need it. But that's another big learning that I think we can work on and improve over the next few weeks, because it is going to be needed. It mightn't be the Roscommon game, it mightn't be Antrim, but somewhere down the lane against the top teams, you need your go-to ball to get out of jail. And that's something that I've no doubt the county management team will be sitting down and trying to make sure that it's worked right for the next day.
Is it the biggest learning to take from the other night? Because as we've said, we wanted to get up to Division 1 to play against these top teams, and there's learning curves all throughout the games. Is that one of the biggest learnings that we have, is when the tide's going against us, that we need to? Because I remember Geezer saying about last year's semi-final that when the tide turned, Donegal hit them for 1-5 and the game was over after the water break. It didn't quite happen like that on Saturday night, but Armagh weren't fit to stop that. Once Donegal got on top, Armagh weren't fit to stop that. Is that the biggest learning curve to take from Saturday evening?
For me, the two biggest ones, that would be one, and would be right up there, because I genuinely feel it would have changed momentum for the last 10 minutes. It just would have given our defence a bit of a breather. It just would have broke their momentum completely. So definitely a huge learning. And for me, the second one, as the game seems to be evolving for us from an attacking perspective, is the long direct ball that went into the full forward line the other day. Like I said, I think Soupy's point that you mentioned might have come off it, and the other ones we mightn't have got scores off it, but it was just so dangerous. It was brilliant to see. You're talking about how Paddy felt from a fan's perspective. Like I was supposed to be neutral, but like, you're excited by that. It's creating contests. It has their defenders scrambling. But the big thing I think we can improve on then is we need more support runners in at Oisin's feet or in at Rian's feet or Soupy's feet, whoever that full forward is. They were isolated. If they hit the ground, they were hitting the ground to a 2-on-1 situation. So if that's something we're working on training, which they quite clearly are, gamble. Somebody has to gamble from the opposite side of the field. Where it's like if I was a halfback in that situation, and I know that that's what we're working on, that if I can see a ball shooting out the left halfback and I know it's going diagonal to full forward, I'm gone. You're trying to get on the end of that. It has to be a midfielder or a half forward, or a corner forward coming looping round, looking break and a handy score. So for me, there'll be the two biggest things that I think we can learn from and we can improve on in the weeks ahead. And I think it'll make a huge difference, because one will get us out of jail whenever it's really needed. And secondly, if we have more men coming off our full forward who's winning that possession, it's creating goal opportunities, or worst case scenario, it's a simple tap over point. Or even if we don't win it, you have two men there to put pressure to pen your opponents in, even if it's only for 4 or 5 seconds, just to slow their counter attack. So for me, I wouldn't see any negatives from that side of our game, and I think just the more that they're working on it and training, the better they're going to get it.
I suppose, Aaron, something we talked about last year on the show was Armagh's sort of inconsistency and maybe inability to put two good games back to back. And it was something that was their downfall last year and the last couple of years. But they've put three good performances back to back now, against three of the best teams in the country, obviously. Like that's massive for Armagh coming through, and Jesus finally sort of got them where he wants them at the minute. You would feel like that's bound to be positive for them coming to training this week and in the weeks coming, that they have put three big, I know they haven't got three wins, but three big performances back to back against three Division 1 teams.
Yeah, like that's been an issue from 2008. You know, that was an issue for the whole latter half of my playing career, and it's followed on since. You know, so it's not new, and it's not this group of players' fault. It just has been an issue that you say we could always pull up for the one big game. I'm thinking back to Down in 2011, first round of championship. They'd been in the All-Ireland final the year before. We put in an unbelievable performance to beat them in the Athletic Grounds, and on a Saturday night, out the next day against Derry, completely flopped. No intensity about us whatsoever. Way off the pace. Conceded 3 goals. You know, and didn't get to the final that we all felt we were going to do. But it has been happening for a prolonged period of time. But you're right. This past 3 weeks, you know, again, you can say Monaghan's rebuilding, Tyrone were missing players of new management, Donegal had boys injured. I don't care. So would Armagh. That's our first time up in Division 1 in 10 years. We have boys who've never played at that level before, you know, so I don't care about what's happening in other teams, who's rebuilding, who's doing what. That was 3 very positive performances where we were right in every game up to the last. And the fact that we're disappointed that, you know, realistically, you said you could have won 3 games. You know, that in itself shows where we're heading to. But that said, it needs to be 4 games, and it needs to be even better again, because championship football is coming a few weeks early, as far as I'm concerned. For me, I couldn't care less about Antrim or what would happen with Antrim at this stage. I just think it's staying in Division 1. It's beating Roscommon is all that matters at this stage, because I think there's too much hard work now that has gone into getting them where they are. Those 3 performances, you know, have been hugely positive and encouraging, and I can just feel there's momentum going to build with it, from the momentum with the group. But I think as supporters, I think it's brilliant, because the interest grows, and I think you said there's that much that has gone into it. I think we just, for development for players and for supporters, it's a massively important game, because you'd love to see them all now getting the opportunity next year and giving us all the opportunity, instead of going to Enniskillen twice or once and Armagh twice. I think we're due a trip to Salt Hill, and we're due a trip to Killarney, and we take a day out in Dublin. So yeah, it'd be massive, absolutely massive.
And you sort of touched on it there, and we'll not spend too long talking about Roscommon, because we'll obviously be doing that in the coming weeks. But like, this is such a huge game, and you sort of said there, like, this is nearly more important than the championship. I remember me and Paddy having that conversation last year, when Armagh went to play Clare, that it was nearly more important than the championship, because you wanted to get up to Division 1. Now you have to stay in it. Like Roscommon, they're an experienced side. They've been up and down in Division 1 the last couple of years. It's not going to be a walkover by any means, and we've seen that last year when the sides met. But this is absolutely huge, like, for this side. And as you said, they've so many boys that have never played this level before. They've only played 2 or 3 games now this year at this level. It would be huge for them to get playing the likes of Kerry, the likes of Dublin next year, and obviously for fans, it's a dream too to get down south for a couple of days.
Yeah, it is, and Roscommon are a good team. To be fair, like, they got a tough enough draw in terms of no one would have expected them to beat Kerry, no one would have expected them to beat Dublin, and 50-50 maybe between themselves and Galway, and they caught Galway after taking a trouncing from Kerry. So, like, make no mistake about it, they're a good side. They've got good forwards that can do damage. We need to bring into the consideration to have Stephen Poacher in for the first time this year with them, and we all sort of know the style of football that he likes to play, and how hard they can be to break down. So is it going to be a game for the purists? Probably not. Do I care if Armagh win? I don't. So like I said, you just like to see all the boys getting well recovered, and seeing if we can get as many men back on the field and ready to go. I just and seeing Aidan Falker, he happened to be standing on the side where we was, and I just said, how was he? So he says, I'm not too bad. So I'll take that as, please God, he'll be good to go in a fortnight's time, and hopefully we'll have a few more boys that can join him, because the more people we have competing for places, the stronger that squad's going to be, and we'll be in good stead for the Roscommon game, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's a big 2 weeks now coming up for Armagh. As I said, we'll cover that game in a few weeks' time with our previews of the game. So, Aaron, thanks very much for coming on. That's all we have today. And just before we finish up, I want to say congratulations to the hurlers who won at the weekend. They beat Monaghan, and hard luck to the Camogues and the ladies who were defeated by 1 point each. So we'll be back next week then, hopefully with a club show. This is the first week with all the teams in action at the weekend, with the catch-up games all caught up now from last season. So Aaron, thanks very much for coming on and discussing the Armagh game with us.
Not a problem at all, Sean. Thank you.